Welcome everyone. Hello creatives. It's me again, Saul Ybanez, your friendly neighborhood designer. In this video, we are going to discuss something quite important, one of the very first step in designing. And this is what we would call a creative or design brief. And this brief is what we're going to use as a guide for a project that we're going to do, which is for a tiny remote work shack. Now, why is a creative or design brief important? You might ask. Well, pwede ka namang mag-design diretso. When I say design, you can go into your computer and start doing the 3D model of, the house or the interior, right? Of course, you can. Pero, you will definitely waste a lot of time if you do so. So here are the reasons why a creative brief or a design brief is important. Number one, it serves as a guide or a blueprint. Etong document na to will be the basis for you to do the next steps, whether it's collecting ideas or references, doing the floor plan, um, space planning, 3D modeling, or rendering the space up to the last stage, which is production. Kumbaga, ito yung magiging Biblia mo when designing this specific task. Number two is clarity of vision. If you have a guide kung ano yung magiging output ng ginagawa mo beforehand, you will definitely save a lot of time. Like, for example, thinking beforehand how the user will navigate the space. Paano ba siya mag-interact ng furnitures? Paano ba niya ginagamit ang equipment sa loob ng bahay, especially when designing with a very tiny space. Efficient planning and decision making. Just because it's a small space doesn't mean it's easier. And most of the time, mas mahirap pa nga siyang gawin because you have to consider um, how each furniture or item functions within that tiny restricted space. Hindi katulad ng may malaki kang space na you can basically do a lot of things with the space. You don't have a lot of restrictions. And so, kung efficient ka sa pagplan mo ng space, it follows through sa decision making mo, right? What kind of furniture will fit this particular space? Do I have to custom made this table, for example, for it to be multi-usage? And that will prevent unnecessary delay. Number four is target audience and client alignment. So there's two ways to look at this, right? It's either you yourself are the client or may paying client na nag-engage sa'yo for your creative and design flair. And therefore, napaka-importante to know the right ask ng client. Ano ba yung requirement nila? Ano ba yung problema nila? Or ano ba yung problema mo? Because in the first place, you are doing this because you have a reason to do so. May problema kang sinosolve, and that's why we're designers, right? We are typically problem solvers. For example, yung work space table nila, do they want to double it as a dining table, for example, right? Or it might be the case na because napakaliit ng space, they want a sofa bed, for example, to be integrated into the space. Number five, budget control. I think this is one of the things na minsan or most of the time na-overlook ng mga designers, especially if beginner pa lang. It's quite normal because sometimes we don't know how to gauge what the market price is for a specific material or furniture. Also, having a budget in mind ensures that you will not overspend. Having a budget in mind gives you a guide on what materials to use and how to use the materials. Okay, so now let's dive into the document and let's see kung paano natin i-answer ang mga questions. Let's go. Okay, so now that we've got the brief questionnaire or the discovery document, you can call it that. So we've got it open. Let's now try to answer each field. So first one is the project name and title. So which project is this for? This is for a tiny, tiny work, remote work shack. And for the client, right now, our client is gonna be us, me. So let's just put our name since this is going to be a personal project. Site address, so where is this going to be located? So I'm thinking Alfonso, Cavite, Philippines. I'm thinking of putting this into, or rather at a isolated farm or remote farm. Okay. For the date, for this field, we can just put in today's date, which is March 3, 25. And let's just put in the client's number. In this case, it's going to be our number, so we're just going to put a dummy number, 63918 625 2142. Email address, you can email us at info@blaq10. These are quite important just in case we need to ask like other questions from the client. Now going to the personal and work information. Number one, what is your profession or primary use case for a remote workshop? Since, like what I mentioned, I myself am the client, since this is a personal project, I am a freelancer, entrepreneur, and I'm also an artist or creative professional. How many hours per day do you typically spend working in a dedicated space? Oh man, I'd say minimum 6 to 8 hours. And honestly, I don't have a work-life balance. So sometimes I even go around 10 to 12 hours whenever I do my personal work. Number three, what challenges do you face with your current work setup? Check all that applies. See, I have a little kid, which is 3 years old. So yeah, instruction at home. I'm always distracted by my little one. Lack of privacy since I'm actually working from home. Everyone just thinks I'm just slacking off inside this room, and then they would just barge in. For internet connection, well, my internet connection is actually pretty good. Uncomfortable workspace. It is pretty comfortable, but if I'm building something, of course, I want it to be comfortable, right? Natural light. I like daylight, so it's always crucial to consider natural lighting within your space, but also have to consider how we can shut it off whenever we want to. So create for blinds. Sign preferences. What size would be the ideal for your remote workshop? I'm thinking 3 by 3 meters is actually good enough. What design style do you prefer? My personal style is actually, I like things to be simple and minimalist and to be very straightforward. But I've also, since quite a fan of remote workspaces, and I visited a few, and I really like how it feels to be inside an industrial yet functional s- interior design. So I would say combination of simple yet warm materials. So when I say warm and raw materials, I'm talking about probably like natural wood or like rusted metals for the facade. So something along those lines. What workspace features are most important to you? Ranked in order of priority, which is one to be the most important. I'm a big fan of storages since I hate, like what I mentioned, I'm a fan of minimalism. So I don't like looking at clutter. I like things to be organized. So I would say storages is a plus. The more storage, the better, especially that we're designing for a very restricted space. Natural windows, yep. I'm thinking of sliding doors or windows that we can open anything anytime we want to bring in some air and freshness from the environment, right? Yep, natural lighting, comfortable chair is definitely a must. Soundproofing, since I do like YouTube recordings once in a while, so that is crucial. Yep, large desk space, but I'm thinking it should be modular because remember we're only designing on a 3 by 3 meter space, and that isn't so big, to be honest. Standing desk option, this would be my last why, because the reason why I want a remote work shack is because I want that freedom to go out to the environment anytime I want, right? So, say for example, if I feel like I've been sitting too much, maybe it doesn't hurt to go out for like 5 minutes or so, right? Now, going to the sustainability and off-grid capabilities. Would you be interested in off-grid features? Of course. Solar power, water connection, collection, composting toilet. I'd say just partially is enough, since I want this space to be my relaxing space or my relaxation space. So I don't want to go into the trouble of taking care of those composting toilet, burying them in the ground, taking them out, if you know what I mean. Standing desk option. I'd say it's a good to have. How important is eco-friendliness in your decision? It's very important, especially being a designer. Um, we like solving problems, and as we all know, the world has a lot of, pollutional problems. So, deep inside my heart, I do want to be able to help and to solve this problem. Number nine, which eco-friendly features would you like? Check all that applies. Of course, solar panels, water collection system as a backup, composting toilet. It's a good to have. Like what I mentioned, it's good to have, but isn't on the top of my list. Recycled sustainable materials, yes, definitely. As much as possible, I want to use recycled or upcycled materials. We're going to make like custom made furnitures. Now going to the comfort and connectivity. What type of ventilation and temperature control do you prefer? Yes, I'd say I would number this instead of just checking them. So, like what I mentioned, I would like to open the the room to the environment, to merge with the environment if I can. So it seems like you're one with your environment, if that makes sense. Small air conditioning unit, yep. I mean, this is the Philippines. It's not, even though it's up high in the altitude, it's going to be cold, but when summer hits, it's still going to be very hot. So I would want a small air condition as a backup. Ceiling fan is a good to have, but considering the space, I don't think we can afford to have space for that. But let's just put that in. Do you require a high-speed internet access in your workshop? Of course. I'm a 3D designer. My clients are based in Singapore. So as much as possible, I want to be able to connect with them and be. Now let's go to the budget and purchasing intentions. What price range would you consider reasonable for a fully equipped remote workshop? I know the prices, so for what I want. It's probably going to go over around 12,000. So, to be honest, my budget is around 12, 15. Oh no, let's okay, so let's keep it to 10 to 20. Because if we can keep it cheap, then why not? But if we're really sticky on the requirements, I wouldn't mind going as high as 20,000 USD. Would you prefer a pre-built unit delivered to you, a DIY kit for assembly, or a customizable design to fit specific needs? I want the design to be modular, so I'd say it's a modular build, but I don't want to go into the trouble of fixing it myself, right? So this has to be occupant ready. Would you prefer within the next 3 months, or 3 to 6 months, or 6 to 12 months? I'd say if I can have it as much as possible, I would. So I'd say 3 to 6 months. A typical house, like a 50 square meters house, would take around 6 to 12 months to build in the Philippines. So I guess 3 to 6 months for a 3 by 3 meters work shack is good enough, to be honest. Additional feedback. What is the most important factor influencing your decision to buy a tiny work shack? Um, for me, it's actually number one is the design. Second is the sustainability features. I'm a great fan of sustainability. Number three is price. Number four is installation. Do you have any additional comments, questions, or suggestions? So in my work shack, I actually want additional space or requirements spaces. I would like to have a bed or a sofa bed for sleeping because I'm thinking that I'm going to spend like 1 month in this space. Second would be a small kitchen for cooking and washing dishes, of course, and a small toilet and bath. Small washing machine. What else do we need? Small fridge. So technically what we're looking for is very similar to a tiny house, but the main specification for this is for remote work, right? So we will be spending most of our time working, but we will also sort of like live inside the space. So that's right. So so if you have a paying client, you just have to get the client to sign this along with the date in your signature. But like what I mentioned, since our client is just us, since this is for a personal project, then of course we don't need that. All right. So that's the summary of the briefing document for you, or otherwise known as the discovery document. Okay. That's it. See you later. Bye bye. And so that covers our video on how to answer the briefing questionnaire or the discovery document. I know the video was very long and boring, but do note that this is one of the first step before you go straight into the computer and design something. It's quite crucial to nail down all those important details, the as and the objectives. I do hope you guys gain some new insights with this video and do stay tuned for the next videos on how we unravel the wonderful world of designing a tiny work shack. If you like this video, please do subscribe and see you in the next video.